Good, happy Monday evening, February 3rd, 2020. I'm Riley King, and welcome to the Riley King Newscast, right here on the Riley King Network. We have a lot of news to get to this Monday evening, so let's begin. First up, Trump trial closing arguments aim at voters' history. Let's take a listen to that video from WHDH 7 News. Dan House, Jonathan Hall has a report.
Get Meat Heat. Meat Heat easily installs in minutes. Meat Heat snaps over your existing baseboard heater. Meat Heat requires no special tools or skills. Meat Heat will not rust, dent, or chip. Meat Heat installs in a snap. Available at Home Depot, Lowe's, and Amazon.
Closing arguments in the president's impeachment trial, both sides resting their cases on the Senate floor. Today, House managers say they have presented a, quote, mountain of evidence against the president. But President Trump's lawyers say it's clear that he should be acquitted. Now the decision is in the hands of the Senate. Let's go to Jonathan Hall, live in Washington, with details from D.C. today. John?
Adam, it is a trial unlike any other. There's not going to be any verdict watch for this trial. We certainly know what the decision will be in the Republican-controlled Senate. It's going to be a not guilty for President Trump. But today, both sides had their final say. The closing arguments are complete in the Senate impeachment trial of President Trump, and we know the two jurors from Massachusetts have heard enough. They will vote to convict the president of high crimes and misdemeanors.
I have felt like a juror. I sat there at attention, took about 65 pages of notes on this case, and at the end of the day, the pile was stacked high with evidence against Donald Trump.
During their closing arguments, the president's lawyers insisted Democrats are just playing politics, and House impeachment, in effect an indictment, should never have happened.
And however you were to define high crimes and misdemeanors, there is no definition that includes disagreeing with a policy decision as an acceptable ground to removal of a president of the United States.
They say a conviction would send a terrible message to the American people in an election year.
Your vote in the last election is hereby declared null and void.
The president was accused by the democratically controlled Congress of abusing his power and obstructing Congress in the aftermath of telephone conversations he had over the summer with Ukraine's president. An unnamed whistleblower complained President Trump improperly held back $400 million in military aid for a time, hoping that would convince Ukraine to investigate alleged corruption involving one of the president's rivals, former Vice President Joe Biden, whose son had ties to a Ukrainian company.
And what could undermine our national security more than to withhold from a foreign ally fighting a hot war against our adversary hundreds of millions of dollars of military aid?
House impeachment managers, acting as prosecutors in this trial, closed their case by saying President Trump put his own political ambitions ahead of the safety of the American people.
If you find that the House has proved its case and still vote to acquit, your name will be tied to his with a cord of steel and for all of history.
The Senate doesn't vote on this until late Wednesday afternoon, so the president will give his State of the Union address tomorrow night without that acquittal in hand, something he had desperately hoped to have, but he's going to go ahead with the speech without delaying it. Live on Capitol Hill in Washington, Jonathan Hall, 7 News.
Thanks, John. Stick with the news station for the latest on the impeachment trial, and when the Senate votes, we will bring it to you live here on 7 News.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Witness pull man from freezing pond after Hudson crash. Driver charged with driving under influence of drugs. Take a look at this photo from the crash. Hudson overturned car. A Hudson man has been charged with driving under the influence of drugs after bystanders pulled him from his overturned car after he crashed into a frozen pond over the weekend. Police said Alexander Picard, 24, was driving south Sunday on Derry Street when he rear-ended another car, crossed into the northbound lane, and went down an embankment. A witness saw Picard's car roll into the water, and he and others jumped into rescue Picard, police said. The man suffered minor injuries, police said. Picard was unconscious and was taken to a hospital with minor injuries, officials said. The other driver suffered minor injuries and was not taken to a hospital, police said. Person injured in rollover crash in Manchester. Let's take a look at that video from WMUR News 9.
Technology. It does great things for people, like putting CPAs at our fingertips who will review our taxes with us.
I checked your return and you're good to go.
Great, thanks.
People can be good at anything, even taxes. Intuit TurboTax.
On daybreak, one person was taken to the hospital following this crash in Manchester. Police say a car rolled over at the intersection of Kelly and Kimball Streets around 3 o'clock this morning, just a few hours ago. Investigators are working to determine what caused this car here to flip. It's unclear if the driver will face any charges.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Keene high schoolers, middle schoolers to start school day later next year. Elementary students start earlier under changed schedule. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9, Ray Brewer.
At Beltates, customers will find everything they need for a building project. The brand names you trust to perform. And with a fleet of over 50 delivery vehicles, we deliver when and where our customers need them. Beltates Building Products. 9 locations throughout New Hampshire and Massachusetts.
Good morning, Sean. It would have been nice if they approved this back when we were in high school, right? The district superintendent sending home a letter at the end of last week with the new information. Though the decision to adjust the times has been in the works for years. Now, back in the fall of 2018, the school board made the decision to shift start times for Keene elementary, middle, and high school students beginning in the 2020-2021 school year. So starting in the fall, the high school students will begin the school day at 8:40 and end just after 3:30. That's versus the current bells at 7:25 and 2:18. The middle schoolers will start an hour later at 8:50 instead of 7:50 and will get out at 3:22. And now the elementary school students, they'll be waking up earlier under the new schedule. The school will start at 8 a.m. and get out at 2:40. Now, the superintendent says that while it's understood that the changes may create challenges for families, the overall benefits this shift will provide to student learners is too significant to ignore. Now, the superintendent also says he understands there are still some details that need to be worked out, including the impact on sending districts in the area, but more information will be passed along. In the studio this morning, Ray Brewer, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Parking restriction, road closures as media crush begins ahead of primary. Broadcast networks begin setting up in Manchester. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9, Ray Brewer. Sorry about that, we do not have a video for you on that. Take a look at this photo. New Hampshire primary preps in Manchester begin. With just over a week ago before New Hampshire voters head to the polls for the first in the nation primary, preparations are underway for the arrival of national media members and political teams. Manchester officials said residents should be prepared for parking restrictions and detours, especially in the area around City Hall. The Armory at the Doubletree Hotel is being converted into television studios for the national media. General Manager Kim Roy said the excitement for the primary has been building for a while. We kind of eat, sleep, and drink primary at least month out, Roy said. Roy said the primary means an increase in business and the hotel will really rely heavily on its staff. It's all hands on deck, she said. Nobody will have a day off until we vote. No doubt about that. Outside the hotel on Santon Plaza will be an increased police presence. All of the network television stations are going to be rolling in today, and then that will increase tomorrow as well, said Heather Hamill, police spokeswoman. The networks will be taking over parking lots, especially around City Hall. The Middle Street parking lot will be shut down for the duration of coverage, and there could be delays in the area. There will be some intermittent closures because the networks are going to be over there, and they'll be doing some live shots, and the officers will be in place to shut down the road for a short period of time, maybe 10 minutes at a time, whatever it needed, Hamill said. Delays will not affect city buses, which will continue to run their normal routes, officials said. Manchester police planned to meet Monday with business owners to try to lessen any impact of the closures and parking restrictions. Tiny Iowa town to hold first ever caucus. Let's take a listen to that video from KCCI, Des Moines, Iowa.
Grant, Iowa, 90 minutes west of Des Moines and surrounded by corn and cattle fields, is one of Iowa's smallest towns. Population, 90. This year, for the first time, Grant will hold a Democratic caucus. The venue? The Hayloft, a rustic bar and grill where farm antiques are plentiful, and a hamburger goes for $2.50. Zelda Schwartz, age 74, has run the place for 48 years.
So you know most of your customers?
Oh, yes. I pretty much know what most of them's going to eat or drink. And
When Grant's Firehouse declined to host the caucus, the Democratic Party asked Zelda.
I'm going to be very honest. When he first called me He didn't say they were Democrats, but that made no difference to me.
It may not have made a difference, but there is a difference.
They're Democrats and I'm a Republican.
You welcome them with open arms.
You bet. I've met a lot of them, and they're all very nice people.
The Hayloft will be one of 1,678 caucus sites in Iowa's 99 counties. Those who attend will align into candidate preference groups. To qualify for delegates, a candidate must receive at least 15% support at each site. If a candidate doesn't meet that minimum, those supporters can pick another candidate. This is called realignment. Troy Price is the Iowa Democratic Party chair.
We at the party have been preparing for Record Turnout Plus from the very beginning. And so when we started putting this process together back a year ago, we went to go get the biggest rooms.
Zelda will host the caucus in the Hayloft's roomy and knick-knack-filled back room.
Do you have any idea how many people are going to show up?
No, I do not. They could seat 125 people.
More than the whole town, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Candidates hope Iowa swing voters will swing back. Let's take a listen to that video from KCCI Des Moines 8 CBS News.
Bernie Sanders is on our side and always has been, fighting to protect a woman's right to choose, to fully fund Planned Parenthood, make childcare affordable.
If swing voters are what you're looking for, no county in America swung more dramatically than this one. Howard County, Iowa voted for President Obama by more than 20 points before a 40-point swing and a landslide victory for President Trump. All of which raises a question. What happened?
Well, what I've been hearing mainly is that he was an outsider.
Laura Hubka is chair of the Democratic Party in Howard County, one of more than 200 counties nationwide that turned for President Trump in 2016.
I love this country.
Now Democratic contenders are hoping those swing voters are willing to swing back. But up here, folks get a little particular.
I don't think Howard County is going to play well for Biden at all.
Because he's the establishment.
He is the establishment, even though knows all the world leaders, and I don't think that means as much as somebody that's an outsider here.
Bernie Sanders is doing well in Iowa.
But I feel in Howard County, it's still scary. It's going to be socialism. I don't know how he'll do in Iowa, but up here, a moderate candidate's going to do well.
I-18. The veterans calling out bingo numbers at the county fairground seem to agree. All three of you voted for Obama in 2012 and then switched to Trump.
Correct.
Yes. And all three of you switching back?
Switching back. I'm switching back.
That's what's at stake.
All three are leaning toward Pete Buttigieg, or at least leaning away from President Trump.
When Trump went to the office, he got rid of all the people I thought that were going to help him do what he needed to do. He fired the generals. He said he was smarter than generals. We're all retired military. We're not smarter than generals.
Nearby at the local UAW Union Hall, we found another disaffected Trump voter.
Honestly, what really turned me off of him was just the way he is.
Behavior.
His behavior.
Like a lot of her neighbors, Sarah Burke is a fan of Pete Buttigieg.
I just think as far as maybe trying to beat Trump, we need to get somebody else in the mix that wasn't kind of in that mix with the last election.
Others, like farmer Barry Christensen, aren't sure if they'll swing back.
And you may go back to the Democratic Party.
It's possible. He says he's leaning Republican, but not if the eventual Democratic nominee has a better plan for agriculture.
I don't know if anybody could be certain until you can evaluate both. I'm not going to say absolutely no matter who's on the other side, I am or am not going to vote for Donald Trump.
You're a potentially persuadable voter.
Absolutely.
It's a powerful position to be.
I hope so.
Yet on a Friday night in another corner of the county, things look a little different at KCD Bar.
2008, you voted for Obama.
Yes.
2012, Obama again. 2016, you voted for Trump.
Yes.
You know that they don't really get along, right?
Right.
Owner Vicky Ator warns Democrats may have hurt themselves with all this impeachment business.
I think people are so sick of this and everything that they're going to vote him back in no matter what.
That's what you're hearing from people around here.
Yes.
And you know what?
Hey, everybody, can I have your attention?
She wasn't lying.
Raise your hand if you think President Trump's going to win again in 2020 here. Really? Wow.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. And it will be interesting once they start the Iowa caucus this evening. And be sure to stay with the Riley King Network. We're going to bring you coverage of the Iowa caucus when it begins. And now let's take a look at your U.S. stock market and see how your U.S. stock market closed for this evening. And here's a look at that U.S. stock market for all of you for this Monday evening. Your Dow Jones Industrial Average closed in the green and went up. Your Nasdaq closed in the green and went up. S&P 500 closed in the green and went up. Gold closed in the green and went up. Oil closed in the red and went down. U.S. 10-year closed flat. Euro/USD closed in the green and went up. And VIX closed in the red and it went down. Stocks rebound from Friday's deep sell-off, but coronavirus fears linger. Stocks rose solidly on Monday, recovering some of the losses from the previous session's steep sell-off, but investors remained worried about the bounce as coronavirus fears linger. Coronavirus rapidly spreading, killing hundreds and affecting 14,000 worldwide. Let's take a listen to that video from ABC News.
America's crackdown on the coronavirus and breaking details about the 9th confirmed case in the U.S. reported in Northern California. The CDC confirming the state's 4th case, an adult woman in Santa Clara County in the U.S. visiting family. This as health officials try to confirm a suspected case right here in New York. And just a short time ago, the new U.S. ban going into effect, blocking foreign citizens from entering the country if they've recently been to China. Hundreds dead, more than 14,000 infected worldwide. The first death now being reported outside of China. And this just in, news tonight about another charter flight from China heading to the U.S. ABC's Clayton Sandell leads us off.
Tonight, as a new case is confirmed in California, the U.S. is closing the door to slow the spread of novel coronavirus. As of 5 p.m. Eastern,
no foreign nationals, non-U.S. citizens who have had contact with mainland China in the past 14 days will be permitted by the federal government to enter the United States.
And for Americans who traveled to the outbreak's epicenter in the last 2 weeks,
they will be subject to a mandatory 14-day quarantine.
Several airlines are already canceling flights in and out of China. These passengers stranded in Shanghai. Flights still making it in are being diverted to 7 airports where passengers get special screening.
They just asked me if I had a cough or a fever or anything like that and gave me a form to take to the hospital if I get sick.
So far, 5 states are reporting a total of 9 confirmed cases, the latest in Santa Clara County, California, a woman who recently visited Wuhan. New York City is now investigating a possible case, but officials maintain the risk is still low compared to the flu. At this Southern California military base, Jared Evans is one of 195 Americans evacuated from China, today making the best of a 2-week quarantine.
The Super Bowl party will be right there. Everyone is actually pretty in their room, either playing cards, just having a beautiful day.
Now, 4 other military bases are gearing up to house 1,000 more evacuees if the outbreak gets worse.
All right, Clayton Sandell joins us now from that quarantine site in Riverside, California. And Clayton, we're just learning about a new charter flight getting Americans out of China.
That's right, Tom. Getting late word from Congressman Scott Peters that a second evacuation flight is set to land Monday at the Marine Corps Air Station in Miramar, California. That is about 80 miles south of here. And like the Americans on this base, everyone on tomorrow's flight will also be quarantined for 2 weeks. Tom?
Clayton Sandell with the details on that new flight tonight.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. And that does it for this evening edition of the Riley King Newscast right here on the Riley King Network. I hope you all enjoyed watching, and I'll see you back here tomorrow for another newscast. And I have 2 news reports coming up in a little bit, so don't go anywhere. Good night, everyone, and bye.